conservative talk, the Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy. So there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk, the Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late night conservative talk, Sackhead Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
Into the silo.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. It is January 24, 2018. We're coming to you live from the SHR Media Studios, the headquarters of SHR operations located right here in Sacramento, California, where it is just, it's just a night. Sackhead Clint is under the weather. Legitimately this time. Not like all the other stuff that we actually make fun of him for.
Do we know that for a fact?
Yeah, I talked to him earlier. He sounded horrible. Horrible. Worse than he usually does. I mean, you know how like he just always sounds loud and just kind of obnoxious anyhow?
Well, that's because he is.
Right. And it's what he is. This was different. He's not feeling well at all. So we hope he gets better. Lots of fluids, my friend, preferably non-alcoholic, but, you know, whatever. To each their own. I'm not saying don't drink. I'm just saying right now you're sick. You may want to just wait, unless it's a hot toddy. I think we can all agree to that.
Well, Mike, let's see, Mike in chat said, I said, hope my voice lasts, and he said, well, drink some honey tea.
Yeah, honey tea's good. Honey tea, add a little bourbon and some lemon. That's perfect. It always makes you feel better.
Nothing better. Nothing better. Nothing better.
And even if your throat doesn't feel better or you don't sound better, you'll sleep good.
Yeah, but after that, who cares?
Right.
Do you care? No, I don't care.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
You give zero fucks as the night goes on, you know? Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. SHRmedia.com is the website. Check out live chat if you want to click in there. Click live broadcast / live chat. If you want to join the chat conversation, if you're listening on Facebook or watching on Facebook, I should say, or YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe and like and share with all of your friends. We would greatly appreciate it. It'd be wonderful if you could do that for all of us.
Facebook says you're live.
Oh, well, we're live.
So
son of a biscuit eater. Yep, we are live now.
I know we're live.
You know what's funny is if it wasn't for my phone telling me, there would be days I would question it. Be like, well, am I really alive today? And be like, oh, nope, apparently I am. I'm good.
And it's actually raining. It's raining in California.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
It's raining, and in typical California fashion, they're fucking things up right up the road here. So, did you, BZ, by the way, thank you for joining us this evening.
Oh, you're very welcome. I need Xanax and Quaaludes.
Yeah, and we got plenty at the pharmacy if you need them.
At the pharmacy, of course.
The pharmacy. Do you know, in California now, do we just call drug dealers unlicensed pharmacists? Is that what it's come down to?
Pretty much, I'd say.
Yeah. Like, it's just an unlicensed pharmacist operation. It's not dealing narcotics. It's unlicensed pharmacist.
Funny thing is, the state of California was supposed to have this tracking system in for all the dope.
Yeah.
No,
it's not really gonna.
No.
That's not a thing. Did you hear the other brilliant thing that they're doing? And I absolutely adore this, and I applaud California. You can't get out of your own fucking way, and I love it. So the tax cut that everybody got, if you are a business in California and you make over $1 million a year, they're trying to take, I think, half of your tax cut that the federal government just gave you, and add a tax onto these businesses to take half of it.
Well, that is clear wealth redistribution, right?
You have all these companies that are giving out bonuses and all this other shit. And I put out, I was talking to my brother-in-law the other day.
Wait a minute.
and I put out a tweet, and I said, what is next for California? Like, and what are these stupid I know they're trying to make up the bullet train because they're $2 billion short now of what they thought they were going to be from a bullet train.
The bullet train is so screwed.
That nobody wants to ride. It goes from, Manteca to Fresno or Bakersfield? You know,
It's not built.
well, that's where it's going to go if it's ever completed. You know, through the mecca of the valley. Oh, God. But I said, what are they going to do with all this money that they're going to raise? Because we know they're going to spend it on something stupid. Is it going to be like sex transplants for dogs or like bleach the homeless assholes? Like, what are they going to do? And they'll find a way to spend this money. That's the sad part. You have the federal government saying to businesses, hey, we know that things have been hard the last few years. Here's some extra money in your pocket. Do with what you wish. The state of California goes, but if you make more than $1 million a year, half of that's ours.
I have that story somewhere. I got to find it.
Half of that money is ours. And then they wonder why businesses are fleeing this like rats off a ship in the state of California. Fleeing like rats off a ship. It's the most ridiculous thing on the face of the planet. And it's one of those things to me that, look, they're so bold about it. They're discussing it as like, hey, because they got the tax cut, we're going to do this. They're not even coming up with another stupid name for the tax to like hide their intent. Like, yeah, but it's going to be the, inaugural blah, 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 bullshit tax. No. They're like, this is because you got extra money from the federal government and we want our cut. It's like the fucking mob. Oh, you made a little extra this week? It'd be a shame if somebody broke your front window.
I don't think that doesn't happen.
Are you the state tax collector? Yeah. And we need a little bit more this week. Wait.
Oh, come on. I saw it.
I saw it too. And it was the best part is the state representatives that are boasting about this bill. I just, it befuddles me, BZ. I don't understand it. I don't know why.
It's an alien mindset.
Yes.
That we cannot grok.
And how, with everything that's going on with this state, and by the way, we'll get into sanctuary cities and lawsuits and all the other stuff later on, but everything else that's going on in the state, wouldn't you think they'd want to back off a little bit and just give them a break? Just be like, we may not want to look like assholes after the federal government gave out all this tax breaks so people can keep a little more money. Oh, no, right after them.
California Dems propose surcharge on businesses to fund social programs.
Yes.
Lawmakers from California have proposed a bill that would compel companies making more than $1 million.
Compel.
More than $1 million.
It's an adorable word.
To turn over half their tax cut savings to the state in order to fund programs that support low-income and middle-class families. You think businesses were fleeing before? You can say au revoir to what's left.
It's insane.
Stop just for a second. In the real world in a business, making $1 million in a business is not that huge.
Considering that's...
Depending on what your overhead is, because depending on what your business is, frequently business margins, that is to say the amount of profit that you're going to make, margins can be very slim.
Yes.
So, for example, margins in electronics are fairly big. Margins in groceries, food, etc., extremely small. Small businesses like dry cleaners, tailors, extremely small. Tanning beds, extremely small.
Yep.
Plus, tanning beds get taxed under Obamacare anyway.
Yes.
Yes. So you don't have to be like Chevron to make $1 million on this. You can be a small business, make $1 million, and then the state takes half.
Well, and I don't... look, one of the things that happened as soon as this tax cut was passed is you had all these other companies, all these big companies are like, hey, we're giving out bonuses. The ones Nancy Pelosi called peanuts.
Right.
Yeah. Which tells you how fucking insane Nancy Pelosi is, because Yeah, $2,000 may be peanuts to her. And we talked about her castle that she lives in.
Well, and she's the fourth richest Democrat in the entire state.
Yes.
And her husband, Paul, literally is a millionaire multiple times over.
Yes. And so if she thinks I'll tell you right now, $2,000 to somebody like me on a bonus is enormous.
A hell of a lot of cash.
Yes. It's a hell of a lot of money. You could do so much good in your life with that.
Yeah, like pay bills.
Yeah. And for those who maybe don't need it up front, it's going to stimulate economy, both local and federal, as a nation. It's going to stimulate economy.
But see, you can't afford to have Donald Trump do anything good. You can't afford to have him win in any fashion whatsoever. So
Right.
you've got to kneecap him on everything, absolutely everything. Like just how effectively the Democrats managed to kneecap him in this
Shutdown?
government shutdown.
Oh, yeah, this was brilliant.
It was known as the Trump shutdown. Let's see, they were shut down from Friday to Monday. Yeah, boy, that was huge.
It was a big shutdown. 3-day weekend. 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
And look I will tell you right now, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they had this in mind the minute he was inaugurated. They said, hey, when the budget comes up, guess what we're going to do?
Yeah, no matter what.
No matter what. It's absolutely insane. So then they shut it down. They make this big production. Oh, he won't talk to us about DACA. Hey, folks, by the way, DACA conversation has no right to be in the budgetary conversation. It is a separate issue altogether.
No, you might as well just bring back all the earmarks.
Yes.
Bring back all the swamp.
Yes. The two shouldn't even have existed in the conversation together, and shame on the GOP for not slamming that down people's throats.
Oh, you want shame on the GOP? Here's shame on the GOP. E-Verify
Yes.
is shame on the GOP. Now it's obvious, it's clear that the Democrats want the votes, but the specific reason that the GOP and they have the bully pulpit, they can do this.
Yes.
Paul Ryan can stand up. Donald Trump can stand up all day long.
Right.
Mitch McConnell all day long.
Yes.
And say we must have E-Verify.
Right.
Why won't they? Can anyone in chat think of just one little teeny reason why E-Verify is not numero uno on the Republicans' hit parade? Why is that? By the way, in chat, we have Mike. Hello to Mike. We have Golf Dogs, Mary Brockman, Melanie. So welcome. Hello to all. I wish I could speak better.
Yeah.
Hello to everyone. So, folks, can you think of any reason why that the Republicans are not all over E-Verify and make that job one? Every business must become a member of E-Verify and run all of your people through E-Verify.
Right.
I wonder why that would be. I can't think of a good reason, can you?
Other than some of those people might be on the payroll now.
Yeah, and they want cheap labor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what it comes down to. And
Melanie says, yeah, because they're hypocrites.
enormous hypocrites. The same reason why they won't be strong about immigration. They won't be strong about the wall outside of Trump. They won't be strong for it. It's the exact same reason. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, DACA is dead, but part of the thing that when they were coming out of this ridiculous shutdown, the stupid shutdown, one of the things that Schumer said when he was like, hey, we got their word that we're going to we offered the wall as part of the negotiation, and they're going to talk about DACA in 3 weeks when we have to vote again. And then immediately after the government is open, it's like, oh, the wall's off the table. Well, so isn't DACA, motherfucker.
Yeah, and
What do you think was going to happen?
And he said, no, we're not even going to talk about it. Here, this is a great article. This is from CNN. I don't know if it's an article per se, but it is from CNN. There was on CNN a guy named Tom Foreman who on Friday said that this massive threat from the government shutdown is so terrible that it's going to kill elderly senior nutrition programs. There's going to be a huge loss of scientific research going down the tubes and NASA's monitoring system. So what they said is an asteroid is coming.
Oh, it's so
February
close.
4th, and because of the shutdown, this asteroid, if it strikes Earth, guess whose fault?
Oh yeah, it's the
Are you
Democrats.
fucking kidding
Oh yeah,
me?
dude. What they'll whatever they will reach at is beyond me. I love it. It's almost comedy at this point. Almost comedy.
It is literally the end of the world.
Yeah.
The government shutdown was the end of the world.
If you want to talk about how the Democrats are the biggest obstructionists going, and they will do absolutely anything to go after this president for any reason whatsoever, you look at this shutdown.
But it's the Democrats who decided they're going to shut it down.
Yeah.
But it's Trump who shut it down when it was the Democrats who shut it down.
Right. And so, but it's like everything else. I could call the whiteboard a hat.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it a hat. It's still a whiteboard. It doesn't matter what you change its name to. The reality situation is they chose to shut it down. And they don't even have the balls. Look, we talked about the last shutdown. At least the Republicans had a purpose of the shutdown. Defunding Obamacare was very much part of a budgetary conversation. DACA is not. DACA is a policy conversation that involves finances, but it is a policy violation.
A policy violation that is also unconstitutional. It was
Yes.
unconstitutional for Obama
Yes.
to have done that in the very first place. But now that they're here and they've been given a moniker, Dreamers, the Dreamers decided that they were.
I'm a
it would
dreamer
be
too.
A great idea to shut down Disneyland,
Yes.
where dreams come true.
And look, I love the fact that they've put this connotation of dreamers to make them sound like just this, far off. Oh, I wake up every morning and all I can dream of is my American citizenship and to give back to this nation that has done so much for us.
Right.
And to go to work and send all 3/4 of my money back to the country that I came from.
I dream of free shite.
Yes. And
I
free
dream
healthcare.
of not paying taxes.
Yes. And yeah, everybody in this country is a dreamer on some level or another. Right? I mean, that's a reality. But that's their way of massaging. And we talked about last week with me talking about the Republicans need to go as dirty as the Democrats sometimes, and why Trump does not do the overly presidential thing on a regular basis is because when you're fighting somebody in the mud, you can't stay on the high ground. You have to get in the mud with them.
If I can speak tomorrow, I'm going to have a couple of articles that deal with that, and I'm going to get into the official BZ position and put it out tomorrow. With luck,
That's
my
not the
voice
position you were talking about at dinner, right?
will be
Oh wait,
better.
that might be did it. Yeah.
So I'll go into that because I've got some incredible articles from the rhino side of the aisle
Yeah.
about it's just not fair.
It's not. It's not fair. And look, the 81 House of Representatives, 81 people that voted against reopening the government, remember who their name is. And remember that the next time they get elected. Look, I said before, the first thing, when it comes to the budget, there should be no such thing as a continuing resolution. A continuing revolution, well, we can talk about that later. Continuing resolution. They shouldn't exist. What should happen is the minute the budget isn't passed for at least a year passes, you stop paying everybody in the Senate and in the House, including their staff. And watch how quickly that changes. They keep getting a pass. We'll do this one for 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, we're having the same fucking over-dramatic conversation.
Do you want to hear something sad?
Yes.
Really, really sad. Guess. This is going to be a guess
Okay.
question for yourself and for all the people in chat. When was it that the United States Congress actually passed a budget?
I want to say it was 20 years ago.
I'm throwing it out there. Anybody in chat want to pick that up and run with it? Now, what I discovered in researching this is that passing a budget can be construed in a number of ways. So depending on how you interpret a passing of a budget will determine the year we last passed a budget.
Right. So I would say, well, a budget's supposed to be every 2 years, right? We're supposed to fund the government for 2 years at a time, if I remember right. That's what is supposed to happen. So I would say the last time we passed a full budget like that had to be at least 20 years ago. I would say under the Clinton administration.
The last information, the last best information that I have is 2009.
Okay.
So we've since 2009.
I was only off by 11 years, which shouldn't be that sad, but it's true.
Since 2009, it's been Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid, and you can't get a Congress to agree on funding. If you can't get a Congress to agree on funding, then you can't do anything else.
Right. You shouldn't be able to do anything else.
That's how fucked up this is.
I think that there should be nothing else heard until it's passed. And once the day passes, once that day passes, you're not allowed to. It's going to be 7-day-a-week sessions, mandatory, 8 a.m. to midnight.
Here's the one way of interpreting it is this. The first was a timeline indicating the last time the Democrat-led Senate passed a budget was April 29th, 2009, and other documents or status reports of various budgets and bills and whatnot. But officially, that I can determine, it was 2009.
That's insane. Absolutely insane. And it was when the House and the Senate were controlled
9 years
by the
ago.
Dems.
9 years ago. Almost a decade since we last passed an actual budget that didn't have continuing or CRs attached.
Well, and here's the other crazy part, too. My favorite thing, I'm just going back to Chucky Schumer trying to blame Trump and the Republicans for all of this. The reality of the situation is most people should know, including if you're an elected senator, that when it comes to the budget, you need 60 votes. They kept throwing this down as, well, they control everything. They control everything. They shut it down. They control everything. No, you need 60 votes in order to pass the budget. So the Senate was not controlled by the GOP. It was a wash at this point, and you needed everybody to vote. And not only did you need the 51 that you had for the GOP, you needed 9 to cross the aisle. Now, I think they should have pressed 9 in red states extremely hard from the word go. Extremely hard from the word go. Hey, if you're in a red state and you ended up being a Democrat, and those are the 9 we're going after, do you really want your constituents in a mostly conservative state to know that you chose the illegal immigrants over the military, over our budget, over the government?
It's so sad and to the point now that even Democrats are starting to back up and say, maybe we shouldn't have gone there.
Yeah. Look, you've had a lot of Democrats. Democrats are pissed for 2 reasons right now. That the progressive Democrats are pissed that Schumer was feckless and gave in, and the Democratic Party gave in.
Oh, and then the Dreamers. What do we know about the Dreamers and Schumer?
Mm-hmm.
They protested outside his house.
Mm-hmm.
Good on them.
Absolutely.
Hey, Chucky, you want it, you got it, you own it.
They're your people. Your people, they've come, Chucky. And the other side of Democrats, the non-progressive Democrats, were pissed that it even happened. And it shouldn't have happened. And they know that. Procedurally, it should not have happened. And then you do all this boasting, all this bullshitting, all this argument. You have military families afraid they're not going to get paid. All of these other things. The government got shut down for a few days. Everyone else I don't really give a shit about. And then you're just going to come out and be like, yeah, we'll pass it. What did you guys get out of it?
This is interesting. And I know we got another 2 minutes before we hit the break, but this is an article from NPR. And it said, open or closed. Here's what happens in a partial government shutdown. And after I read this article, the bottom line was, when I got through with it, I thought, okay, nothing really bad happens.
No.
Because here's just an inkling. I don't know if we're going to go to do this afterwards, but Social Security checks will continue in what is an automated process. Military, active duty military will remain on the job. Military ops in places like Afghanistan will continue. Veterans Affairs. Ever since the scare about veterans not getting their health care during the last government shutdown, by the way, that was in 2013.
Yes.
The VA administration has been getting its funding appropriated in advance. Mail delivery, the post office will be open. Travel, air traffic controllers, TSA, customs and ICE will be on the job. National parks. The one major departure from the last shutdown, the Interior Department says it will work to keep parks open. That was a personal fuck you from Obama to the citizens of the United States when he shut down all the parks, courtesy of Mr. Obama. Museums, the Smithsonian, as the National Zoo, remain open for the weekend, but they'll close on Monday if the government shuts down. Well, it opened back up. Courts and justice. Federal courts continue normal ops. Legislation. Congress continues to operate. Federal agencies. Most federal agencies would be closed, like the Department of Education and the IRS. Boo-hoo-hoo. So really,
Close the IRS. What happened?
What is the difference, and does anyone really fucking care?
Well, that's the thing too. Is okay. What are you gonna? I wish there was more on that list that got shut down. Absolutely wish.
Well, this is that's an article from NPR, and I'm sure that if it would benefit leftists, it would have been on there.
Well, and speaking of benefiting leftists, I do want to talk about this, and then I want to talk about a certain memo that's become kind of popular all of a sudden. All that and more here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on shrmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk. The Sackheads Radio Show. Only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about? We can just, like, the last question we cut a couple seconds. Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Hey, good point. Exactly right. Oh, God.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Okay, I can either make you really, really happy, or I can make Clint really, really sad.
Oh, well then you must make me happy.
Which would you prefer?
Who's the boss?
Okay, Mike in chat says the show seems to flow better without Clint.
Yeah, dude, and the amount of like physical room we save in this place without having to duck and nose every time he turns to talk to me.
I guess there's duck and cover, and then there's duck and nose. Oh boy.
Oh, good stuff. Good
Mike,
stuff.
that was some funny shite. I have to tell you
Mike.
that right.
Thank you, Mike.
That was funny.
Oh, Lord.
Oh.
So, anywho, we're talking about the shutdown before the break.
It was pointless, absolutely pointless.
They shot themselves in the foot.
They did, in fact, shoot themselves in the foot. They tried to hang, you know, the what is it? You hang the dead duck over the dog or something like that. They tried to hang the duck over the dog, and it just didn't work.
He tried to duck the dog is really what it comes down to.
Or belling the cat, I guess you could say. It's
yeah,
like belling the cat. It didn't play in Poughkeepsie.
Speaking of ridiculous in government.
On Dan's in chat.
Hey,
welcome to Dan.
Second best newsman in the business. Speaking of ridiculousness in government, the FBI.
Where do you start?
Oh, I know. So as we go through the Mueller investigation, more and more is starting to come out. We have the memo, which I'll talk about in a little bit, the one that Twitter and Facebook really suppressed the tweets and kept it from trending how it should have, which, by the way, I know we can bitch all we want, but the reality is they own it. They can do whatever the fuck they want. We just don't have to use it.
I said this a while ago, and I wrote a post about it, and I literally, this is no secret, I've kind of been under the weather for the past week, and so I haven't written a post in at least a week. And for the people who have said, all right, where are you? What are you doing? That kind of thing. But one of the last posts I wrote was about social media. And I said, all it would take, I don't know if anyone even realizes this, there is an alternative to Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Gab,
Mm-hmm.
G-A-B.
Mm-hmm.
Gab.ai is where you go. Now, the problem with Gab is that, and Dave, if he were here in the chat room, he would tell me, when I went through, I don't know if it's changed, but it took me at least a month to get approved because so many people were trying to get into it.
Yep.
And I guess they had some staffing problems, not enough people and that kind of thing. The more Twitter does this and the more Facebook does this, the more people are going to go over to Gab. Now, the problem that I have with Gab is that it's not as user-friendly, its graphic interface isn't as obvious to me as Twitter, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But if they wanted to make Gab blow up, only one thing would have to happen. Trump would leave Twitter
and go to Gab. Yes.
And Gab would explode, and trust me, Twitter
Would
would
die.
lose millions of dollars.
Like that.
And that's the reason. There was some boob, some Democrat boob who said, oh, doesn't President Trump, isn't he, he's violating the terms of service and the rules. And Twitter's stupid, but they're not so stupid as to remove Trump because he gets lots of views.
Oh, yeah. You think of how many people follow just what he says on Twitter just for that reason. It's insane. So we were talking about going into the Mueller investigation, everything that's going on with the collusion, etc. And you get into the dossier that was going on, Steele, and then there's these two FBI officials. Or one's an FBI official and then the other one's a DOJ official.
Yeah.
And they're texting. And it's all of a sudden becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger thing than anyone thought it would be.
Well, see, the funny thing is, the FBI guy that you're talking about is called Peter Strzok.
Yes.
S-T-R-Z-O-K. And people were saying, well, he doesn't have any pull over at the FBI. He's just a line-level agent. Bullshit. He was the assistant director for counterterrorism, which is a large. I've been there. I used to work for them a long time ago. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big position.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heady position.
Very heady.
So you don't get there by not having access to almost everything in the FBI, which means you also have access to lots of things in all the rest of the alphabet agencies, because that's the nature of the beast. That's how it works. Now, his honey, Page, Lisa Page?
Yes.
Okay. Is a DOJ attorney, and they're a hookup.
Bum, bum, bum.
And I don't know. I have not researched him or her, so I don't know if they're both married to other people and then they were having an affair.
Don't know
how that went. But basically, she's his squeeze and he's her squeeze.
They squeeze it.
I think he's married, but I don't quote me. I'm not sure. But essentially, they're both highly placed, high-level officials in each respective agency, and that's their background.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now let's get into what they were talking about. All the way up from the time that it looked like before that Trump was going to be the nominee and elected, they're essentially talking about all the different ways that he's going to be taken down and the information they're trying to get and all these other things. And at one point, Strzok says something to the effect of, yeah, there's a big thing coming, but I don't think it's going to work at this point, which I'm assuming was the Russia investigation that they were going to try to pull on them.
Yeah, I can't quote it, but you're right insofar as he was intimating that he's going to be working for that investigatory team.
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
But it apparently he didn't have supreme confidence in the ability to find smack on Trump.
It goes back to Van Jones' statement at CNN, right? It's a big nothing burger, Trump and Russia.
Yeah.
and I'll tell you right now.
Which also is another reason that the directionality of the investigation changed over time.
Has not been about Russia. Look, where you're at now, right? What does Mueller want to talk to Trump about? From what we know, why he fired Kelly, not Kelly, Clark and Comey.
Right.
That's where it's at right now. Now, we all know why he fired Comey, because he picked up a ton of investigations. He absolutely, and we'll get into the memo later, but he absolutely was picking, choosing what to investigate appropriately and what to make it just kind of look decent and then move on. When you questioned Hillary Clinton about her server and she wasn't under oath and it wasn't recorded and you just took her word for it, we knew where his allegiances lied. Everybody in this country knew. And then you came out and said, oh, yeah, we're not going to press charges. We're not going to do anything with this. Meanwhile, Huba Abedin's husband, whatever his name, I can't even think of his name right now. It's
Wiener.
Something to do with penis. Yeah,
Right.
Wiener.
Yeah.
We find out that he has a bunch of her classified emails on his personal computer, the same computer he's using to send dick pics to 16-year-old girls. We find out, so there's a huge violation. Some of them from Hillary. They gave her a pass on a shitload of stuff that had the top secret mark just scrubbed for that specific PDF over and over and over again. Well, why'd you fire Comey? Well, because he wasn't a company man in the sense that he works for the government and he wasn't doing his job appropriately. That's why he got fired. Oh, this is insane. You're just removing people that could oppose you. No, we're removing people who, as it looks like more and more, were not only not doing their job, but they were colluding against the person who this country elected president.
Very true. Very true. Trump made a verbal gaffe when he said that he got rid of Comey because he was conducting the investigation and he was going further into President Trump. What I think actually occurred is this. I think he believed in his heart that he was going to give Comey a shot, and which is why he didn't get rid of him on January 20th, as I fervently suggested, because the president obviously doesn't listen to me.
Oh, well, and shame on him, by the way.
That's quite true.
You know, a lot would be better in this country if he did. I'll tell you that.
Well, obviously the president isn't watching or reading my posts either.
We're going to keep tweeting it at him.
But having said that, I think he gave Comey a chance, and when he realized that Comey was not interested in being cooperative in any means, reason whatsoever, he got rid of him. Now, the guy that wrote the rationale for that was released, and it wasn't Rosenstein, it was another guy at DOJ, but he laid it out in a perfectly chronological and linear fashion, the reasons, the good and applicable reasons why Comey should have been fired. So if he relies on that, Trump should be okay. Now, having said that, and I'd like your input about this, Trump recently has said that he would very much willingly like to speak in front of Mueller. Anyone besides me think that's a horrible idea. Me. And here's why.
Okay.
Mueller's a process guy. Trump is not. If he speaks in front of Mueller, especially in a grand jury, obviously what we know about a grand jury is when you walk in alone.
Yes.
There is no attorney. There is no mouthpiece. And trusting Trump to say the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong thing at the right time, I would do that. And just as Mueller got, air quotes, Manafort and I can't think of Papadopoulos. You know, these are things that were acquired by way of process. It didn't forward them, as far as I can tell, anything in terms of the investigation, especially in regard to the original reason for it, Trump, Russia, election, hacking, Russia favoring Trump, Russia somehow establishing Trump in the presidency. That didn't happen.
Here's why I think he agreed. And I'm going to put it plain and simple.
Okay, I want to hear.
Everything I've heard about this memo says that when it is released, the Mueller investigation's over. It's done. Because he's going to be able to turn around and fire Mueller in a second, which says to me that there's something about Mueller in there, or maybe the office Mueller was working in at one point with Comey, because they're tight. Everyone remembers that.
Oh.
I think Trump knows that that memo is going to be released, and he'll never have to speak to Mueller.
In terms of time frame, the last I heard today, because I was watching the news for a while, is, God, was it Jim Jeffords? Someone was saying that they think that the memo will actually be released in about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now the pressure is on to attempt to get Trump to speak
before the 2 weeks.
Before the release of the memo.
Won't happen.
I can only hope that it doesn't happen. I can only hope that whoever is advising Trump tells him, wait, just wait. You might want to, or he says that the only way that you're going to get any speaking done in terms of Trump is a closed room, Bob Mueller, Donald Trump, and nobody else.
Right.
No grand jury, just two dudes sitting in a room.
Right. That would be better. And I'd be okay. I'd actually be okay with that.
Other than that, nope.
I would actually be okay with that. Because I think when Trump and Mueller one-on-one without a grand jury, you can have that conversation. But I think Trump is banking on the fact that this memo is going to be released before he has to speak, and it's going to cause such an uproar, and it's going to show. Look, the one thing about Trump is he doesn't agree to do things if he already doesn't know what's going on. What he says verbally is not always his plotting. You look at how he plays media. You look at how he plays Democrats. You look at how he plays all of these people at their own game and wins repeatedly. He does not go into things blind. He does not go into things stupid. He may not always say the cleanest thing, but he knows better. And I think he knows better here too, which I want to start to get into the memo. When you have your last word.
The last I heard today, again, is this gentleman by the name of Gates, who's a representative. Who was it? McCallum on Fox was speaking.
Martha McCallum.
Martha McCallum was asking, listen, is this thing way overblown? Is there just people are afraid that they're making way too much out of this memo and that it's being way overhyped. Is it overhyped? And he said, absolutely not. It is not. It could potentially change an entire game.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when you have representatives who have read it and said, I couldn't tell if we were in America or communist Russia. And people literally have said, and I forget the representative's name, look, I wish I hadn't read that memo for the only sake that I couldn't believe that it happened in my country. I don't think this is hyperbole. I don't think this is hype. I don't think that this is a blown out. And here's why. When every Democrat on that committee says no to voting to release it.
Thank you. There's a story that was lined up in one of my tabs here that said exactly that. And that's the other thing that so many people, Sean, do not know. They have not heard.
Well, nobody's covering it.
Only people who are refusing to let the memo be seen or heard
Democrats
are the Democrats.
And why? Well, if I'm a bank robber and I have all of the evidence of my last bank robbery in my house, and the police show up and they don't have a warrant, why am I going to let them in? Because I have shit to hide behind me.
Thank you.
And it's the same fucking thing here.
And people attempt to say, well, really, look at it. The Democrats, they're not partisan.
Right. Bullshit.
Just as people say, oh, Look at it. The FBI is not partisan.
Bullshit.
And look at it. The DOJ is not partisan.
Bullshit.
And look at it. The alphabet agencies, the NSA, the CIA, the DIA, the NRO, the NSA, they're not partisan.
Well, and I've said this before, BZ, and I'll say it again. What was going on in the last administration, I've said this in the past, I think when it all comes out, is going to be so scandalous. And it already is. I mean, look at the shit we know about that nothing happened with. During the election, Lynch, Clinton sitting on a plane. That alone should have been a big, we were just talking about grandkids. Bullshit. And that's just that one specific. Look at all the other things that happened that we know about that nobody did shit about, and CNN and MSNBC sleaze and all these other places refused to cover. Ask the family of Brian Terry about it. Benghazi. Which, by the way,
I'm sorry. I have something to add, but I want you to finish your thoughts first.
No, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Which, by the way, is another thing that I want brought up again really soon. I want Benghazi to be reopened completely. So the actual truth to what happened gets out there. That's a side note. Go ahead, BZ.
Yes, and this is something you and I saw him. I don't know if you saw him, but we saw Michael Medved at Freedom Fest last year. For those who have not seen Michael, he had cancer for a while, and Michael he's maybe 5'6", if that, and maybe 105 pounds dripping wet.
Yeah.
But Michael Medved is, to me, and God bless Michael for having survived, good on him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of politics, you suck. What he was saying is, let's get over this thing with Hillary Clinton. She doesn't mean anything anymore. She's not relevant anymore. And so if you set that precedent, Michael Medved, what you're saying is that if Trump does something and they don't discover anything about it during his 4 years,
then it's nothing.
And if he's not relevant anymore, then everything should be dropped. That gets back now to Benghazi. All right. In Watergate, that was terrible. No one died in Watergate.
Yeah, it was a burglary.
And yet that was terrible. That was the earth stopped rotating on its axis for that. 4 Americans were killed in Benghazi, and an entire region, the Middle East, was turned upside down by the Obama administration and Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went and did anything and everything possible
to lie.
To lie
Mm-hmm.
about Benghazi, about the emails, about the server, about her attempt to subvert Bernie Sanders, to make sure that she got in, to make sure that she cheated to the nth degree, and that she would be installed as president because she was due that. It was due to her.
Absolutely in her mind.
She put up with enough crap. She was next in line, and she was due to get
She's earned it.
Now, though, that she is not installed as president, we need to forgive and forget.
No.
It doesn't matter what crimes were committed or really how many people died, does it? Michael Medved says she's no longer relevant. Give her a break.
But you look at everything that's come out since then, right? The Uranium One deal, the Steele dossier. All of those things are enormous. Never mind what's in this memo. BZ, look into your Magic 5 ball, because I know you don't have an 8 ball. That's pretty high price for us, and we couldn't afford it. But tell me, by looking in your Magic 5 ball, what you think that memo contains, or at least some glimpse and pieces of it.
Well, it's going to have something to do with the FISA court.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have something to do with an affidavit,
Mm-hmm.
an application for a warrant through the FISA court,
Mm-hmm.
and the FBI.
Mm-hmm. I agree to all the above, and I'll expand on that a little bit. I think the wiretapping of Trump's office was authorized, but not for the reason that we were told. Oh, we will listen to that one guy, and we happen to pick up some other sort of ancillary conversations.
Yeah, that's a massive bullshit on that.
No, I think that Trump's people, and I think it's going to be a lot of his top people, were all bugged. I also think that you're going to see that the FBI was directed to find and try to disparage then candidate Trump. I think you're going to see everything being weighted into the Clinton campaign as the, in other words, no matter what's alleged, they didn't do anything wrong.
Strzok was the crafter initially of the memo that James Comey signed off on in terms of exonerating Hillary Rodham Clinton at least 1 month prior to her official exoneration by James Comey. See how it's all kind of interlinked.
I think you will see criminality all the way up to Hillary Clinton. And I think there will be something out of the former administration, the Oval Office. I think that it may not be criminal, but I think there was knowledge in the administration, in Obama's administration, what was going on. It may have had enough degrees of separation that he himself may not be implicated, but I guarantee you, they're gonna, and it may be Valerie Jarrett, it may be somebody like that. Somebody close to him knew what was going on exactly. And I think as soon as I heard the words old school KGP, then I said, nope, this is them using state media, secret police, and all the other shit to disparage and destroy somebody's character in an attempt to make sure that they are not elected, which is why I think Trump never feared this Russia investigation with Mueller, because he knew that it was all bullshit.
Let's go one further. We know that DC leaks like a terrible sieve,
Oh,
like a screen door in a submarine,
like a cheap baby's diaper. Not the baby's cheap.
And yet the
diaper
odd
is.
thing is, we have not heard a hint of a leak from Mueller's team. Is Mueller so good that he's the only individual in D.C. that everyone quakes in fear of leaking? I doubt that's true.
I doubt that's true.
I can
as well.
only make one conclusion.
Well, I want to know how many suicide notes are being written for a couple weeks from now for certain people. Like I said before, I joked last week about somebody's obituary coming out before they were dead from the Clinton. We're really sorry to hear about the passing of so-and-so who committed suicide 2 weeks from now. It's almost that bad where I wonder, and I've had numerous people shoot me messages, be like, hey, if I was these people, I would be lawyering up. I would be asking for WITSEC, and I would be getting the hell out of town. Because if it's as bad as we're being led to believe, and, you know, it's been a week or two since it's been a week since it's dropped, or the knowledge of it's dropped, and it's still a major issue, which in a 24-hour news cycle usually doesn't happen. And for that to still be on the front page of every conservative newspaper article, etc., I think there's something major there, and it's something that's going to upset this country beyond maybe what we've ever known. I really believe that.
I'd be heading to my cabin in Frog Dick, North Dakota right about now.
Good old Frog Dick.
2006.
Hey, we're up against a break.
We is.
When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the memo, and then I want to get into some other things that have gone on internationally, maybe a wee bit, and maybe we'll we may bring a guest on the line here. All that and more on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Stick around.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network. Featuring right thinking from the left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on shrmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk. The Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be...
Like, what are you talking about? The last question really cut a couple seconds. Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, the 24th of January, 2018. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. Before we went to the break, we were talking about the memo, and we were just talking off air about the lack of media coverage with the memo, and I think this is like one of the most telling things on the planet. Look, we know two things. The left isn't for it. The Democrats aren't for it. Everybody else seems to be. This falls in line with how mainstream media in this country works now, where it's, if we like it and it meets our agenda, it is plastered all over the goddamn place.
Okay, here's an article, and I found it during the break.
Okay.
Since you mentioned that. And I remembered seeing something about it. This is from Conservative Tribune by a person named Benjamin Airy. Stunning. Every Democrat on Intel committee votes against letting Congress see FISA memo. The loyalty of America's lawmakers is supposed to be to the country and to the truth. People can, of course, disagree about politics and policy, but at the end of the day, all elected officials should serve the Constitution and the people. It looks like truth has taken a backseat to partisan games in a stunning development to the Department of Justice wiretapping scandal. Every single Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee just voted to cover up evidence of what could be the biggest story since Watergate. So it wasn't a hint or a suggestion about what you were saying. It's fact. Fact.
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
And I'm going to bring in a friend of ours on the line here, because I haven't heard his opinion about this yet, and I know he's always very opinionated, and let's see if he wants to play with us. How could you not, though, right, PZ? Like, when the sackhead's calling, you better answer. That's really what it comes down to.
Facts and evidence.
Right, facts and evidence. I appreciate that.
Hello. Sorry that we missed you.
My favorite part about this is I think we were sent to voicemail intentionally after my comment of like, hey, how would you not want to come on the air with us? Yeah. No, we were hung up on, BZ. And that's fine. That's fine. We can be hung up on.
So what you're saying is we went to voicemail.
We got sent to voicemail. You know, we're an international radio show, God damn it. We deserve respect.
Listen, we get respect on the planet Zephron, okay? So if we can't get respect here on our own planet, what can we do?
Oh, my favorite part is I was texted 15 minutes ago. Hey, if you want me to come on, I will. Just give me a call. Okay. Nothing. Not even a little bit. So we'll try again here shortly. Or if Danny, if you want to call, you know the number. I'll be happy to have you on the air, Danny Butcher. You know, it's one of those things to me, BZ, where you start talking about the totality of this memo and how big it truly is. And you start talking about the implications that are being thrown around. And you start talking about how much of a tremendous change they say could come from this. Or the other side is pandemonium and mass hysteria. Can either side be trusted? Right?
Well, what so few people seem to recognize is the fact that if the abuses occur here and now on this side of the aisle, then there's nothing indicating that something like that could not and hasn't and won't in the future occur on the other side of the aisle. So for the people making no objection to this whatsoever, when the abuses occur on their side, so to speak, then what happens when the abuses occur across the aisle? Goose and gander.
Yes.
And it's sad. That was the guy that I was thinking of. Representative Matt Gaetz is the guy that I was thinking about today. And he said that laws were broken and there were surveillance abuses. That's the context of this memo. So in light of all of the things that have been occurring in the past month, at least, can you not conclude that it's going to have something to do with, as I said, FBI?
Well,
FISA.
Yes, and
applications.
I absolutely agree. And I think it's going to go beyond that. It's going to be interesting to see what doors this actually opens, what avenues will come off of this one memo. Hey, we have all these people that we need to look at. We have to start backtracking this information. Now that we've backtracked it, here's where it's leading.
Do you recall that one particular judge, Gonzalez or Hernandez, I can't think of his name, recused himself from Mueller and from hearing any particular case regarding that because he said he just recused himself, didn't give any particular reason. However, we determined later that he's one of the sitting judges on a FISA court.
Weird.
How odd.
Very, very odd
is that? The questions are what, and I cannot think of another name for this if I have to label it. There was and may still be a cabal of individual agents who wrote an affidavit, because the story is this: they went to the FISA court initially and were refused and came back, regrouped, and then using that dossier amidst the other information that they allegedly had, went and reapplied through FISA, and that was accepted. The commonality throughout that is that FISA is to applicants as grand juries are to ham sandwiches. It's not that difficult. So if a FISA court rebuffs you and you have to step back for a plan B, that tells me that the individuals making the application were, let's throw out the word, perhaps borderline desperate.
Or extremely.
And desperate people tend to do desperate things. So I want to know whose names and what agency were on the application, were on that affidavit.
Oh, yeah.
To which judge did it go, and what was the basis for the application?
And if they had to hold back, why? He had to
Because-
recuse himself. Why?
Because it becomes an if-then situation.
I would love to know. Oh, go ahead.
If the warrant was granted by the judge on the basis of the dossier, then everything acquired, every little piece, molecule, iota, will be rebuked. That's the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And if a judge willingly or unwillingly partook in this, and we must find out that too, did they pull the wool over the judge, or did the judge who signed off on that, was he an active and willing participant in that, knowing the background of this dossier? And if he didn't and was unaware of the background of the CV of that dossier, that's going to be one pissed off judge
Mm-hmm.
who was used.
Tremendously. And I'm going to bring in Danny Butcher right now to join us on the air. And Danny, the memo, one of the things, too, that I want to bring up right off the bat is when the memo first really started to get out and started to be talked about, I want to know who was calling what lawyers almost immediately. That's going to be that's going to be the $1 million question right there, right? As soon as they said, "Hey, it's this memo and this is what it's regarding," what lawyers were being called by what politicians, former politicians, or bureaucrats?
Yeah, well, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden were calling their attorneys right off the bat.
I think you're 100% right. I do.
I do. And here's the thing about this memo, and I think this is just. Yeah, and I want to address a couple of things about what you've been talking about. Number one, do I think this memo is going to be the break-all smoking gun? No. I think this is another long list of things. You know, they started with the dossier, now it's coming to this memo, and you're starting to see all of this stuff tied together. You have to remember, right up until the election, and then after the election, the mainstream media, mainly the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, they were going absolutely apeshit. Russian collusion, Russian collusion, Russian collusion. Now, this is where the Russian collusion story has gone. What we have seen through the Washington Post, the New York Times, through their own reporting, they have discovered that there was no Russian collusion on the part of Donald Trump and the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, what have you. There was Russian collusion by guess who? At least there
Hillary
was a
Clinton.
cover-up by the Obama administration, and that's what you're starting to see now. It starts coming around here. Now, here we are, and you made the point earlier. You said, hey, why is the mainstream media not covering this memo as aggressively as they did, say, the dossier or the Russian collusion story lead up? Because they know all of this stuff has started to come back on who? It started to come back on
Hill Dog.
the Democrats. Go ahead.
No, it's coming back on Hillary and the Democrats.
Yeah, it's coming right back on all of them. And so now they are approaching this story very, very with a very guardedly. They're approaching this story very reluctantly, having to report on it, because all of this could be very damaging to the Democrats. I think this could be more damaging than anything else heading into the 2018 midterms.
Well,
because this is showing. Not only is this showing, all of the connections. Of course, you know how Hillary Clinton's campaign completely took over the DNC during the election. They controlled all of the finances. They controlled all of the communications. And guess what? that included working directly with the Obama White House.
Mhm.
So what you're starting to see is just like what we saw with Watergate. It wasn't just one thing, one story in particular, one piece of evidence in particular. It was a lot of footwork, a lot of investigating, a lot of pieces to the puzzle to put together. And that's what we're seeing here. So you're starting to see, you saw how the Obama administration tried to suppress information about the Russians and how they were trying to, basically show that, hey, you know what, if we wanted to, we could screw with your elections by tapping into your voter,
Right.
into your
They threw
voting
that
machines
fear out.
and stuff like that.
Well, and I
So-
think,
so they
Danny, that's
cover-
something.
yeah.
That's something I think people forget about, and that's a great point, Danny.
Yes.
Is when we bring up Russia, before the election, you had the Obama administration. We reported on this show that I know an elected official who specifically said they had a random FBI agent show up and say, "Hey, we're double checking all the voting machines. We have the software on this thumb drive. Just run it, and it'll tell us if your voting system's been hacked." When, in fact, the voting system never gets put online. It's done through a series of stopgaps in order to keep that from being online, so there's no way for it to being hacked. I think that people forget that story came out just before the election, that it was being set up that the Russians were interfering with our elections, and then all of a sudden you had the allegations.
That's not the end. Do you remember Mike Pence was the governor of Indiana? And you remember Homeland Security hacked into
Yes.
Indiana voting machines.
Yes.
It wasn't Russia.
Exactly.
And if you're talking about influencing elections, who threw millions of dollars at an organization to unseat Netanyahu?
Palestine.
Under Obama.
Yes.
It wasn't Russia.
No,
It was us attempting to subvert others' elections.
But here's the other way the Democrats get hurt by this, Danny and BZ. If this comes out to be as big as it sounds like it's going to be, yeah, mainstream media is not covering it now, and you have to ask yourself why. Well, the answer is quite simple. They will show their complicity minimally, if not full-blown cooperation with Democrats during this past election to destroy Trump. And now you're going to have people looking at them, and that's going to hurt the 2018 midterms as well, because now people are not going to start watching. They're not going to keep believing. It's going to wake up, I think, a lot more people. And if the Democrats are so afraid of waking up their base, which normally they never are, look at this last shutdown. If they are that petrified of people in their base awakening to their bullshit, then there's definitely something to be seen here.
And let me tie this to, I want to bring this back to kind of tie all this together, because now, once again, I'm speculating here. There's no evidence or what so have you. But, a lot of what you do when you're in journalism and you're an investigative reporter, you speculate and you follow up on your hunches.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going out on a hunch here, and I'm going to go all the way back to the infamous tarmac meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch.
Yes.
And so now you have that infamous meeting. Then all of a sudden you have Comey suppressing all kinds of stuff at the FBI that could possibly be damaging to Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, what have you. You have Comey all of a sudden protecting President Obama, and so that order came somewhere. You have the Clintons, the Clinton campaign, in complete and utter control of the Democrat Party.
Yep.
Which that by de facto gave, in my opinion, not only gave them control of the party, it gave them control of the White House.
Yes.
And influence inside the White House. And Valerie Jarrett and Barack Obama were a co-presidency. Everything ran through Valerie Jarrett.
Yes.
And Valerie Jarrett ran everything through Loretta Lynch, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when it's all said and done, a lot of these pieces of the puzzles are going to start getting tied together. And I think you're going to see how all of this comes back to to a lot of suppression of evidence. You're going to see a lot of the stuff behind this. We're already seeing this. We already know that there was an effort after. There's a lot of things. People forget about this. After Trump was elected, there was a continued effort by holdovers from the Obama administration to try to sabotage. I mean, let's not mince words here. To sabotage the presidency of Donald Trump early on, and they continue to do so. They're still trying to weed these folks out.
Yes.
And it all starts to come back to tie together. I think as we start digging more and we get to this memo, we'll have another memo. All of a sudden, hey, who knows? We might have a video here. We may have
more text.
Video. We may have an audio recording here or what have you, more damning stuff. But I think at least you're going to, the Clintons and the Obama and the White House are tied together by the election and by the suppression that they had. Look at what they did to, obviously, what they did to Hillary's opponent.
Mm-hmm. Bernie.
How they basically, Bernie was the sacrificial lamb. He had no chance in hell.
Ever.
And so what makes you think? So what makes you think if they were going to do that to Bernie Sanders? What makes you think they wouldn't try to do whatever to sabotage the presidency of Donald Trump to, guess what, protect the legacy of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama? And also, I still think all of this still comes back to the Clinton Foundation. Somehow, all of this comes back to, I think you're going to see, this goes further than a memo, than Russian collusion. This goes further than, trying to make Donald Trump look like an asshole, a racist, or what have you. This goes to, guys, we've got in the Democrat Party, you're talking about all the corruption dealing with Debbie Wasserman Schultz while she was the head of the DNC, and all of the crooked people they hired to come in and run the computer systems for Democrats on Capitol Hill, and all the information was lost. All of the top secret classified information that was put on Anthony Weiner's on computer. This all comes back to, the corruption, and how these folks got so wealthy on the taxpayers' dime. And that's bottom line. It's going to come back. You're going to start seeing all of this was to cover up a lot of, all of the underhand dealings they're doing, stealing the taxpayers' money. You know what? Here's the thing, folks.
Busing in people to vote.
The Clintons stole the paintings off the wall. They stole the silverware. They stole the last roll of toilet paper as they walked out the back door of the White House. What makes you think they would not steal your taxpayer money? Oh, has anybody heard of a little country called Haiti?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a shithole, I heard.
Let me throw this out at the two of you as well, and the folks that are listening and the folks in chat. I'm wondering, and I've always been wondering, if this wasn't the original predicating reason for Hillary Clinton deciding that she was going to delete emails on her server. I think that she was conducting business between various nations and governments regarding the Clinton Foundation.
Yes. And using
that
her
that
position.
was her first thought, that there's incriminating information regarding herself and Bill Clinton and other governments and governmental entities and the Clinton Foundation. I think that's one of her first responses, was to get rid of it for the cover-up of the Clinton Foundation. Then it only got worse.
Hey, when there's a missile homing in on you, you're going to eject, and that's exactly what happened. It's funny you brought up the Clinton control and the DNC and how Hillary controlled everything. But who's the true leader of that party? The person in office. Obama was the leader of the Democrats at that time. That's right. And if it's going back to the leadership, his name's going to be popped up. I'll tell you, I think a lot of things that are happening now, Danny, and you hit the nail on the head, was, okay, we lost with Hillary, but now we have to try to protect the legacy of, and it was so much so that they're willing to take their chance, I think, with Pence, should something happen to Trump as far as impeachment. They would do whatever they could or force him to resign or whatever. and they're no fans of Pence. I mean, there's no way they're fans of Pence. But they thought they would take their chance because maybe he would play a little bit nicer. And it shows you just how deep and how fucked up, for the lack of a better word, things really are in Washington, D.C. And drain the swamp, the thing that was said time and again during the election, will have been proven yet again by a president who has absolutely no care about how politicians feel.
Well, you know,
by the way,
John,
a president that's been losing money personally by becoming president. Meanwhile, the Clintons are going the exact opposite way. Go ahead, Danny. I'll give you the last word, and then we're up against a break in 4 minutes.
Yeah, well, here, I want to remind everybody. Everybody has to remember that, you know, the surveillance on the Trump campaign went even further. I mean, it went into when Trump was taking office, they were still doing surveillance on his campaign staff, and then starting in on his Oval Office staff and the White House staff, anybody in the administration, until they were found out. And where did that come from? It was ordered by the Obama administration. And then it goes back, okay, well, who ordered that surveillance and what was it for? Well, they were using it to gather campaign information or any information that they could use against Trump to help Hillary become president.
Massive conspiracy.
To protect themselves. Exactly.
At taxpayer expense.
At taxpayer expense. And the other thing to remember in all of this is that, you know, Trump was quoted today. Remember, all of this, you know, Donald Trump is made of Teflon.
Teflon
it's
Don.
amazing whenever he is attacked, how he is able to turn this to his advantage and use it against his political enemies. He was today. They were asking him, "Hey, are you looking forward? You know, hey, what? You know, we hear you're getting ready to be interviewed by Mueller and stuff." He says, "You know what, guys? I'm looking forward to it. I want to sit down and talk to Mueller. Let's just have that discussion. Let's have that conversation." He's like, "Hey, you know what? Let's get it out in the open." And the more and more as this goes further and further and further, the more damaging it is to the Democrats. And I'll use this, and I know you're going to go to a break. Look at what happened with the government shutdown over the weekend and how quickly Democrats were forced to cave on something probably a couple of years ago they might have been able to get with. But Trump is having such success with the economy and everything that he's doing moving forward with his policies that now the Democrats are infighting over what to do. They tried to shut down. Look at that. How'd that look? We tried to shut down the government and support illegal aliens over the United States citizens. Well, that went over, didn't it?
Yep.
And so now you've got the infighting in the Democrats and blah, 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 blah. That's going to work to Trump's advantage because when that infighting begins and people start fighting for control of the party, trying to, get, so they can get a little bit more political power, then all of a sudden, little more things start to come out. Another memo here, another memo here. Oh, guess what? We found another 15,000 emails on this computer. I wonder where those came from.
And speaking of, guess what we found, I do want to throw in that they're in the process of recovering all the text messages the FBI and DOJ said they couldn't get because they, quote, lost. And it happens sometimes. Now, all of a sudden, after they got the shit beaten out of them about it, now they're like, oh, wait a minute. We might be able to recover, which they did during the Clinton email debacle. Oh, well, all that stuff's been dumped and we're not going to be able to get it. And everyone said, oh, bullshit. And they're like, oh, you know what? We think we can recover this now. There might be some stuff there that's recoverable. Let us take a second look. So it's amazing how the DOJ uses that excuse on a regular basis. We're up against a break. Danny, you going to stick around?
Hey, man, if you'll have me, I'll stick around.
All right, well...
breaking story when we come back.
Breaking story from BZ and more with Danny Butcher right here on the Sackheads Radio Show live in the SHR Media Network. Don't go away at all, really, because if you do, I mean, it's just going to get ugly, and you just want to stick around. It's more fun here on the Sackheads Radio Show than it is just about anywhere else in this world.
Done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on shrmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk. The Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about? We can just, the last question we cut a couple seconds. Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Hey, good point. Exactly right.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. The last part of the show here on the 24th of January, 2018. Down the home stretch, we're running... Well, I don't know if we'd actually be running, but, it's close enough for government work. Danny Butcher joins us on the phone right now. BZ, before we went to break, you said you had some breaking news. Why don't you go with that, sir?
One of the pieces of news was quite unfortunate. There's no full story out on this yet. There was a Colorado sheriff's deputy who was shot and killed in a shooting. There's a manhunt supposedly going on right now for the suspects. They say that plural. And the other story that just came out that was breaking is from Fox News. It says, DOJ official, the headline, DOJ official urges Nunez not to release memo on surveillance abuses. A top Justice Department official is urging House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunez not to release a much buzzed about memo circulating in Congress that purportedly reveals government surveillance abuses. In the letter, which Fox News has obtained, Assistant Attorney General Stephen Boyd wrote, quote, We believe it would be extraordinarily reckless for the committee to disclose such information publicly without giving the department, meaning DOJ, and the FBI, the opportunity to review the memorandum and to advise the HPSCI of the risk of harm to national security and to ongoing investigations that could come from public release.
Weird.
What's your first thought about that? I know what mine is.
Oh, sorry, BZ. I know I had you low on that, and I apologize. Yeah, obviously it's the whole holy shit, don't look into this, because if everyone knew, they're going to be pissed and you're going to have to start going down avenues of investigation that's going to touch so many people, it's going to be gross.
But the intimation to that was that the DOJ and the FBI are completely they're in the dark as to the contents of this memo.
Right.
Do you believe that for a moment?
No. I think somebody, as soon as they started talking about this memo, I think somebody went back through all the memos that got sent out on a higher level and went, oh shit, it might be one of these following four. I mean, look, it was the day after Trump signed the new FISA court approval. The day after that all of a sudden these memos came out. So somebody went back. And I don't know if when Trump was signing the new FISA court approval, if you turn around and said, hey, I'm going to sign this, and you're not going to do any of that bullshit.
You mean the Surveillance Act?
Yes.
The 702 series portion of that? Yeah.
And if he said, hey, yeah, I'm going to sign it, but because of change X, Y, and Z, you guys aren't going to do any of that bullshit that you pulled during the election. And someone went, oh, shit. Because I don't believe in coincidences. Not that much. And that was too coincidental, in my humble opinion. Danny, your opinion?
Well, it just goes back to show that there's a lot of information in here, and you're seeing, the fact is there's a lot of people that know what's in this memo. There's a lot of people that know what is actually going on. And, of course, once stuff starts getting released, then names start appearing. And and then, of course, now the sharks will start circling when there's blood in the water. And then they can't make the argument. Right now they can make, hey, you know what? These conservative media outlets are just a bunch of biased fake news things.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be reading the New York Times, Washington Post, and then all of a sudden, when the New York Times and Washington Post jump in on this and start digging around, well, then they know it's serious because they've lost their voice. They've lost their platform to try to to spread their message, to spread, what they think that the people need to know and need to hear. I will point this out too. Judicial Watch is trying to get a copy of Mueller's budget from the Justice Department, and the Justice Department, and of course they filed a Freedom of Information Act to get a copy of the proposed budget by Robert Mueller's Special Counsel Office. They say, hey, you know what? We need to see how much money is being spent on this. How much money of the taxpayers' money is being spent on this investigation? We want to see where this money's going, how it's being spent, and stuff like that. And the Justice Department came back and said, up yours. We're not going to release that information to you. We don't think we have to release that information to you under a Freedom of Information Act. And so now I think we're going to have to go to court to get this information. So you're talking about it's not only do you see them fighting to release a memo, now they're starting to fight over other things. Like they don't want you to see the budget. They don't want you to see how the money's being spent. And that goes back to what we were talking about, how emails and texts mysteriously have disappeared in all of this. Think about this. The FBI, this isn't the first time this has happened with the FBI.
What?
Oh, you know what? We lost 30,000 of Hillary's emails. Oh, guess what? We found them. State Department. Oh, we lost this. Oh, guess what? We found these. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So what it ends up being is go look at Hillary. It wasn't so much. Was there incriminating evidence in some of this? Maybe, maybe not. But what was in there were the connections. Okay, that's even more important sometimes than hardcore evidence, because what you start seeing is, and when you start, I've investigated enough of these cases over the years that when you start looking at the connections, who was talking to who was being emailed, who was responding back, and you start kind of getting a grasp of what the conversations were about. When you start putting those connections together, who they were talking to, when and where, and what have you. We know all of these missing emails, with Strzok and his mistress and stuff. All of that information, the text messages, what have you, all of that took place during a very important part of the investigation. All of a sudden, they disappear. There's something there, and so once again, and then I bring the money into this. All of a sudden you start saying, okay, so who's receiving money from the Mueller? Are we paying for information? What are we doing here and here? So we're going to start seeing. We start connecting the dots, and they're getting more standoffish now. Even Trump's own department is starting to get this, and so you're wondering, okay, who inside the Justice Department? I guarantee it wasn't Jeff Sessions who said we're not going to do this.
No.
So who did say we're not going to do this? And so I think you're seeing a lot more holdovers
Yes.
let's face it, from the Obama administration. Trying to throw trying to
Monkey in the wrench.
who, what, when, and how. You got it.
The fly in the ointment, the monkey in the wrench. Oh, yeah. No, it's absolutely insane. And again, why should we not know what the budget for this is? That's an easy one. Hey, look, he has blah, 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 blah.
That's odd they didn't have a problem revealing Ken Starr's budget.
Weird, right? Absolutely strange how quickly that came out. Gosh, I'll tell you what, this is going to be it's shocking to me, and I'm going to give you my take right now. I think people will be arrested. I think people will go to jail. I think that it'll also unravel a lot more, maybe not criminal things, but horrendous things. And I think it's going to give people a bigger look inside of what goes on in corrupt administrations than what they thought. I think the Democrats are petrified because not only in 2018, but in 2020, this is going to be brought up again as a huge scandal that if it's as big as it is for the corruption, I don't know if they can recover in 2 years to try to make any headway. So it's going to be interesting to see which avenue this rolls down. And I'll tell you right now, I think that some pretty prominent people are going to end up going to jail. If not, you're going to see people like Valerie Jarrett, I think, is going to cut a deal. I think you're going to see some people like that just getting out in front of it and cutting deals because it's going to be pretty harsh. BZ, what do you think?
What's one of the first things that we heard about Obama when he stepped away from the White House? Valerie Jarrett came to live with him.
Yeah, and he lived close in D.C. because he didn't want to be too far from it.
How ultimately creepy is that? But that said, the quote from this article continuing, it's really stupid. They would try to block us from releasing the memo. A senior congressional intelligence source told Fox News. It only makes it worse for them, and it's more evidence that DOJ is trying to obstruct our investigation. Obviously.
You think? I don't even think obviously should be the word. It's too light of a word. What's a stronger word than obviously, Dan? You're a wordsmith. BZ, you're a wordsmith.
The four-page memo is being described by lawmakers as shocking, troubling, alarming, with one congressman likening the details to KGB activity in Russia. It is believed to include information about government surveillance conducted during the Obama administration.
and I will throw another word in there, damning
Yes.
for the Democrat Party in 2018.
And I think 2020. I think if this is as
I
big,
agree, too.
I think if this is as big as it sounds like it's going to be, this memo could single-handedly hand Trump a re-election, and could pick up a lot of purple states like nothing for the House and the Senate. And you're going to get a supermajority.
By the way, I'd like to throw this in as an aside. I don't know if you happen to watch these particular people, but I do, and I would be interested in Dan's thoughts about this. This report comes from Ed Henry. I believe just about anything he writes. It also comes from Catherine Herridge. I believe just about anything that she writes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Florida Representative Matt Gaetz said he believed people would lose their jobs once the memo is released.
Yeah, minimal. And you may have people resigning immediately. And like I said, I want to know who called what lawyer. That I know. Hey, you know what? Maybe Pfizer already has a tap on that sort of thing. But if I had a magic ball and I could see as soon as they heard memo look, we know enough about this memo to have some idea what might be in it. But isn't it telling that no part of this has been leaked yet? Isn't that weird?
Well, you know what? You have to ask yourself, what are the attorneys for Flynn, Manafort, and Papadopoulos doing right now?
Drooling
the
and
moment
salivating.
this comes out, there's an instant appeal, and their clients are gone. They're out. They're done.
They're
Nothing.
drooling.
The fruit of the poisonous tree, as I spoke about earlier.
Yep. And as I said before, Mueller's investigation dies immediately. Because then I think it's going to be proof that this was all fabricated and that it cost the American people more money than they could possibly comprehend and put them through an investigation of an independent counsel into the president that this country didn't need. I think it goes a lot further. I don't think we've even begun to touch the bubble of what it might be, but the fact that it hasn't been leaked is what's really driving me crazy, because everything else gets leaked. Everything. And the fact that even the GOP hasn't leaked it, like, hey, you know what? If they don't want to vote for it, we will, kind of divvy this out a little bit just to try to get people drooling on it. If they're sitting on this knowing it's going to be that powerful that they don't need to leak it because it's going to be released because they know they have the numbers to release it, then I think that tells you how explosive it is as well.
Sean, let me throw this out there. I want to throw two things out there. Number one, this past weekend we had the big women's march across the country and what have you. Very, very noticeably, Hillary Clinton was missing. She's normally at the forefront of a lot of these activities. She never found a camera she didn't like, a lot of this.
Right.
She has dropped off the radar in recent days in the last couple of weeks. And let me point this out too, and this comes back to maybe why this memo was not leaked sooner. And I'm going to bring the Republicans into this. We do know for a fact there were a lot of Republicans out there, especially a lot of Republican lawmakers, that did not want to see Donald Trump elected to office. So what is the possibility of some Republicans are also a part of this, and then they're on the side of fighting this thing being released. So we know that obviously the Obamas, the Clintons, they had it in for Trump. We know the Democrats had it in for Trump, but we also know there was that group of Republicans that had it in for him and continue to do so
to this day.
That's why you have a lot of stuff bringing the party together. So I think this is something that could not only affect. I think it's going to be more damning to the Democrats because I think there's a lot of corruption there.
But you're going to see some rhinos get hit.
On the Republican side, it's going to expose some of them as well.
I think you're going to see McCain and Lindsey Graham somehow get pulled into this.
I think you're going to see some resignations.
McCain already said that he was McCain admitted last year
Bingo.
that he was responsible for turning information about the dossier over to the FBI, and that he sent people up to Canada and across the pond into England, where Steele was. McCain already admitted that last year.
And now, here's the other thing, too. If there's any truth to this Steele dossier that people have died as a result of it already, and I don't know, I know that's been a lot of rumor. I know there's been no hard facts, but it's come from inside sources, allegedly, that people have died as a result of that dossier being put together. Does that make the Democrats complicit in notable deaths to try to keep Trump out of the White House?
I will say this, Sean. Is there murder? Is there hits taking place?
Suicide?
I wouldn't go that far, but I will say this: we certainly have seen a lot of Democrats lately. Especially folks that were, weren't necessarily lawmakers, but they were members. But they were members of they were members of campaigns, or they were political consultants and stuff like that. All of a sudden, you've seen a lot of these people killing themselves.
Yeah.
And so you go, okay, what did they know that they took their own lives? So you certainly have seen a lot of that. But once again, this is something. You're starting to see everything fall in place with the dossier, with this memo. There's going to be other stuff that comes out when the interviews start, and we start getting some of the release from the interviews. I think this next round, people are anticipating. Oh, you know what? We're interviewing all the Trump administration officials. I don't think you're going to see any of those people all of a sudden have arrest warrants issued for them. I think if there is anything like that, people are going to be surprised when the resignations start on the Democrat side and the arrest warrants start for, guess what, former Clinton and Obama officials.
I agree. BZ.
Here's a story from CBS News. Did someone die because of the Steele dossier? An attorney for the co-founder of the opposition research firm that sought to dig up dirt on President Trump says someone has died as a result of their findings. On Monday, past Monday, Senator Dianne Feinstein released a 312-page transcript of Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson's August interview with the Senate Judiciary Committee. In that transcript, Simpson attorney Josh Levy tells the committee that his client wants to be very careful to protect his sources. Somebody's already been killed as a result of the publication of this dossier, and no harm should come to anybody related to this honest work.
Well, and I immediately, and I know, I can't even tell you why I think of this. Do you remember the doctor in New York about a month and a half ago who committed suicide by stabbing himself in the heart, which is such a normal thing to do?
Yep.
That was the first thing I thought of when that came out. I'm like, well, what did that doctor know? I know there was his connection to Haiti. I know he came out on CNN against the Clintons saying, and I know like it could very well be somebody very, very low level. But the fact that they use the word killed and not died is very telling as well. It's very specific. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I'll point this out too. We've heard these reports. Also there's reports. If you look and you start going through the stories, there's reports of people on the Russian side, up to 8 Russians that have had some type of connection to the dossier and to the collusion scandal and stuff. They have mysteriously died, killed themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So this has far-reaching implications around the world, not just in this and this, but this is reaching into all the way into Putin's administration. So, this is just, buddy, when this blows up, and we're going to have to keep going after them, keep going after them. But when we do, and everything comes together, it's not going to be something spectacular. It's going to be the memo here, this and this, and then there's going to be this just like there was with Watergate. There's going to be this one little piece of evidence that ties everything together.
Well,
it might be an email, it might be a video, it might be something. But somebody somewhere is going to crack, and when they do, it will blow wide open.
I agree wholeheartedly.
It's like the sex scandals. All it took was one woman to come forward with Harvey Weinstein, and everyone else said, screw it, it's out,
Let's
too.
Go. Well, and so I'll bring you even forward. I think the ultimate end of this is going to be for all of the Democrats who screamed, oh, Trump colluded with Russia, Trump and Russia, Trump and Russia, Trump and Russia. I think this will be unbelievable proof that it was actually the opposite. And it would not shock me whatsoever to find out
what I said.
Yeah, to find out that it was actually the Clintons after the uranium deal. All of a sudden, their friends in Russia were making up shit to put on Trump because Putin and Trump may talk. They don't like each other.
Well, not after he rained missiles in Syria. They're not the best of buds.
No, they do not like each other. And Putin can't push Trump around where I think Putin knew he could push Hillary around. And he was going to be allowed to go on to his ridiculous ways and grow Russia militarily and bring them back closer to communism, which I still think is Putin's ultimate goal. So it was vested for the Russians to make sure that Trump wasn't elected as well. And what this does to our relationship with Russia as a nation, what our feeling as a nation will change greatly with Russia if high members of the Russian government were involved. Danny, your final word.
And I would watch this because right now you're seeing with this investigation, this is going to last through the spring, through the summer, heading into the midterms. I think we're going to have an October surprise. And look for, right now we're getting through all the administration officials on the Trump side of things. Watch when the subpoenas start going out for Clinton campaign officials and Obama administration officials. When that happens, then you know it's fixing to blow wide open.
I agree wholeheartedly. BZ. It's an institute. I quantified this as BZ's DC axiom. It's been true for years. I finally got my hands around it, and that's this. People ask, why do you never see any action in DC? It's because it's now an institutionalized culture in DC. The current sitting regime never wants to go after the predecessors because they don't want the successors to go after them. So in essence, nothing gets done.
Right. And nothing will get done. Look, I said it before, I'll say it again. I think that this dossier, this memo is not going to be huge in itself in the sense of it's not going to specifically name people. But this will be the catalyst, I think, for the undoing of a lot of people in the Obama administration, including the legacy, and is going to show the entire country that the whole thing with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and keeping Bernie from getting the numbers and all that stuff was just minimal as to the lengths that they will go through to steal an election.
It's the rock in the windshield, and it's starting to crack.
It absolutely is. Sir, Danny Butcher, thank you so much for joining us this week. We very much appreciate your call, sir.
Oh, you bet. Appreciate it, man.
It's always lovely to hear your voice, and, second best newsman in the business. We know that for a fact. Thank you, buddy.
You bet. We'll talk to you later, man.
Folks, that's it for the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. We will be back next Wednesday right here at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. SHRmedia.com. Check us out. Facebook, we're on there as well. SHR Media. Search us, like us, share us. Same thing for YouTube and Twitter. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., the Bloviating Zeppelin will be in this seat.
Maybe.
We're hoping for a recovery. We're also hoping Sackhead Clint feels better. Make sure you check out all the awesome shows right here on the SHR Media Network, and we will talk to you soon.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack you. Sack you.
Radio.
Sack you. Sack you.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever